Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel for another interview. Today, I'm pretty excited about this one. I am joined once again by the team over at Hasbro to talk about Marvel, and we're going to jump into a discussion about the awesome retro 375 line. Now, we revealed this line here on this channel probably a couple years ago now, but it's a really fun retro action figure inspired line, and I think we've got some brand new things to reveal here today. So joining me from the Marvel team over at Hasbro, I'm going to let all of these individuals introduce themselves right now.
Hey guys, I'm Ryan, Senior Brand Manager Marketing on the Marvel Legends team.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm Steve, Design Director for Marvel at Hasbro.
Dan, hey, my name is John Boyce. I'm a Principal Designer at Hasbro. I work on Marvel.
He's the John Boyce.
The John Boyce.
The John Boyce, yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much. And you did much better than me. I stumbled all over my intro today. I don't know. It's like I've never done this before.
You should practice more.
But thank you guys for joining me again. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And John, for the first time, thanks for joining me, man. I'm really excited to talk to you.
It's a pleasure. Definitely. Thanks so much, Dan. This is going to be exciting to talk about retro. So
awesome. So yeah, the retro line has been really fun, giving us some great characters. But before we get into some of the new stuff, I think one of the exciting things about this line is you've recently kind of revealed that you're going to be introducing some new elements into this line, like some larger scale figures. So do we want to start by talking about that?
Yeah, you saw that a couple of weeks ago on our Marvel Hasbro Pulse Instagram Live. I have to get all the terminology right because we do YouTube, we do Instagram Live. But yeah, we had a whole bunch of reveals and pre-orders. And one exciting piece about that was the Sentinel in this scale. And, you know, we're looking to take this line to new heights, you know, as it were, and to new areas. And the first thing that made the most amount of sense to us would be what would kind of an oversized figure on a gorgeous, you know, John Tyler Christopher illustrated blister card look like? What would be the best character to do? You know, we had come off of a successful HasLab 6-inch Marvel Legends Sentinel, as I think we all know. And, you know, we've done a bunch of X-Men themed characters in the line. So the Sentinel in a more kind of classic design made sense. And, you know, got to work with Steve and John on that. And I think it came out great. And it's actually, maybe John, if you want to talk about just the size of him, how big he is, and all the extra little pieces that he comes with too, because those are really fun to add in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's like there's so many X-Men characters that we've created for the Retro 375 line. It just makes sense doing this bigger figure, this bigger Sentinel, to kind of complete your collection. And I can kind of share an image here, or actually I can share the actual item. So awesome. It's like, so the best part about this obviously is the big card. You know, it's like it's the same proportionate card size that we do for the rest of the 375 figures. The really cool parts about the figure itself is the extra head. So it has a damaged head. So for those collectors who want to purchase another Sentinel, they can. Obviously the beautiful card art, which is, you know, just it's the same card art that's pretty much for all the rest of the 375 its. And the other accessories here are obviously, well, I talked about the head. There's also a blast effect that's in here. Oh, it's right here. Here's the blast effect. So the blast effect connects to the hand. So you can kind of create those awesome poses with the rest of your figures. There's like some iconic comic books that really have that kind of blast effect coming out of the hand of the Sentinel itself. Plus there's this captured tentacle. It's something that's kind of unique to, hopefully you can kind of see this, but the captured tentacle connects to the hand, and then you can capture different X-Men characters. And then the last big feature is something probably what Kenner would have done, you know, back in the day, where we have the eyes light up with a old school light piping. So the eyes light up as well.
Oh my gosh, I love light piping action features. That is such a great
I know, right? We don't do enough of that.
Yeah,
honestly.
That is so cool. Awesome. And the card looks amazing, that giant size. So like what's the actual like size of the figure?
It's 8 inches tall. It's proportionate to the other characters in the line. It's like Sentinels weren't necessarily giant, but it's one of the biggest figures that we could get for this card size. So
I think what you know, JB, the first question is, sorry, John, the first question.
Yes, absolutely.
It's on card. You're going to keep it on card, or you're going to open it? You're going to let him breathe, or what?
I will open it. Yes, I absolutely will. Definitely.
Will you? Go on, and I dare you. I dare you.
You dare me to open it? Absolutely.
Yeah, go on.
All right.
I love this.
Oh, I'm uncomfortable.
Look
uncomfortable. I'm struggling to open this. There we go.
Oh, you're a man after my own heart, JB.
Tearing the card back and everything. I love it.
Blister, which is always awesome.
The beautiful thing about the Sentinel, JB has done an incredible job designing it and making it all work, but keeping it absolutely 100% Kenner, even down to the light piping, which is just simple genius. The fact that we've all got ours displayed. I've got mine at the back there, and JB's got his around, and they're all uniform height. So we wanted to start getting a little bit of landscaping going in there when we display them in our cabinet. So getting these bigger figures to interact with them, and we've got some other stuff coming on, which we may or may not hint at later on in the interview. But we're gonna start changing it and adding things and changing the landscape and the sizes and dimensions and things a little bit, just to kind of have some fun, just have some fun with the line, which is what it's all about.
I love to hear that, because it's like you read my mind. I was gonna ask if the Sentinel was just the start of some new sizes and some new things coming to this lineup. So that is really, really exciting to hear.
Well, JB, what else, without telling everyone too much, what else have you kind of been working on? Because just so everyone knows, JB designs this line, right? I know at the beginning we had Dwight and we had Tony and other people that were working on it, but JB's inherited it and is now the sort of driving force behind it. And, JB is I'm going to make you all embarrassed now. I wonder if you can blush on camera.
Please don't embarrass me, please.
Is like a toy industry warhorse. He is a design machine. He's incredible, and he needs to be fed. So to feed him with some new challenges and things like that. So JB, what can you give us a clue on what's coming up? What are we working on?
23.
I'm keeping my eye on Ryan, making sure he's not going.
Definitely, we don't want to reveal too much. It's like I'm almost the wrong person to reveal things, because I'll reveal everything. But obviously, it's like we're gonna definitely in 23 we're gonna plan on doing new figures. It's like there's still a lot of A-listers that are out there that we want to create, and we want to continue retro into 2023. So it's just think about all the characters that have been created. Think about all the characters that are still yet to be created, and those are the characters we're thinking about and working on. Also, the other big part of it is that after you amass such a big collection of figures, it's like, what else can you do? Obviously, big figures are one of those things. Obviously, we're doing towards the tail end of 2022, but vehicles. It's like, think about the characters that have vehicles or that are integral to the character. Those are the things that we definitely want to do. And as we even look back at like brands that I grew up on, G.I. Joe and also Star Wars, it's like, think about mini vehicles that can work with specific characters. I don't think we can say exactly who they are right now, but definitely vehicles. No, okay, Steve said no. Even though I would love to say, but definitely vehicles are a big part of what we're gonna do for 2023. And you can just think of the characters that might have vehicles. But obviously, go ahead, Steve.
And they're going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Ryan, did we fit within the leak security threshold there?
Yeah, that was great. Teasing it up.
So just how Kenner are these vehicles going to be? Like, are we going to have like power walkers like they did for Superman?
Like a chair?
Yeah. Just all these.
Here's a chair for Wolverine. There you go. There's your chair.
Well, yeah, go Total Toy Biz. Do like a.
I mean, Marvel never had that kind of stuff. It's like,
yeah.
It's like I really feel like with superpowers, it's like they kind of had to invent vehicles for characters who didn't really need vehicles, but there's certain characters within the Marvel universe that need vehicles. So
sure, of course.
You can expect to see those coming into 2023.
Excellent. And I love like what you've got back there now, because now you've got the Sentinel standing next to Falcon back there, so you can really see the size. That's really amazing.
Imagine like a whole bunch of Sentinels, right? This was the HasLab trick where we launched with the troop builder first, because you want to get a bunch of them. So, you've got your Wolverines and your Cyclopses and everyone, and just a whole bunch of Sentinels. I think would make for an awesome display.
Excellent display. Absolutely. That is really, really cool. Well, I'm very much looking forward to that and seeing what else you guys have coming with the vehicles and everything. I think it's really exciting. I know when we first talked about this line launching the last time we talked, that was kind of one of the things that we even talked about then, like, could this expand into things like vehicles? And I think I even mentioned play sets, which I know that's probably a little big, but it's really exciting to see that we've gotten to that point now. We were getting larger figures. We have vehicles coming down the pipeline. So I think that's really cool stuff. Definitely has that retro feel to it when you've got those elements added. All right. Well, do we want to jump on into the new things, the new reveals that we're going to be discussing here today?
Let's do that.
Take us away.
Absolutely. Definitely.
We got the two kings of subtle hints here. You and Dan and JB, I think, inadvertently.
I mean,
I need a cue, honestly.
Do you
gotta
think
give me a let's move on. All right.
I mean, I'm not spoiling anything, am I? With my I mean, this is what my studio always looks like.
So, I mean, the audience has been looking at Dan's wonderful display over his left shoulder there for the whole time. So why don't we just jump right into a character who, Dan is a big fan of, and one he actually mentioned 2 probably years ago, and we've just filed it away. And then when we knew we were going to put him in the line, Dan Yoon, who works on marketing with me, and I, we're like, oh, we should get Pixel Dan to do this because he actually was calling for it. So we like to try to remember those little things of the big fan. So why don't we go with him first?
All right, so here he is, everybody. Moon Knight is coming to the
just for Dan.
Yes, dude, I am over the moon, pun intended. This is amazing. I called for this in the beginning. Obviously, so Moon Knight's been one of those characters that I've loved since I was a kid. And the funny thing about it was his costume that drew me in. I was a kid and I'd be in the comic shop and I'd see that awesome hooded character where you can only see the eyes shining through. And I just thought he was so cool. And he's always stuck with me ever since. So he was always a favorite character of mine to get as a figure. He hasn't had a lot of action figures over the years, but here he is now as a Kenner retro style figure with this beautiful card art, really fun stuff. So I noticed too, while I'm looking at this guy in hand here, like some of the things that really stood out to me is the fact that he's got like the red eyes instead of like a lot of times we see him with the white eyes, but I do love that he's got the all white costume. So maybe you guys can talk about some of the decisions that were made here.
We definitely have a cooperation, Steve and I, on retro. It's like we definitely work on, we kind of have a partnership on retro. And I think that there are some different stages of development where I'm constantly looking at comic books. It's like I'm always looking back at the comic books, and especially some of my main references kind of my personal collection. So it's like my personal comic book collection. So Moon Knight has always been one of those characters that is just so unique to Marvel. And just as far as his costume, his character, his personalities, he's so cool. So some of the things that we went through, whenever I look at the comics, I think of like, is he truly all white? Does he have other types of colors to him? Because he's shaded so much. And even on the JTC artwork, he has kind of a bit of a fade and a bit of a shadow. So we did go through a stage where he wasn't all white. He was partially, I don't know if you can see this one, but this was a different version that we ended up doing, but we changed him to all white.
Oh.
And this version was partially gray. But Steve and I, our conversations, it's like, well, most likely in the comic books, he's interpreted as white. So sometimes it's like I overinterpret a little bit, but at the end of the day, we chose the red eyes because they probably popped more. They gave him a bit more contrast. And the all white costume just makes him so much more clean. And just the curve of his cape, really, there's really no other figure that we've done that has that kind of very cool curve to his cape and how it looks. And he's just such an iconic character, and the way the folds of his cloak around his neck, and it's just one of my favorite all-time characters in Marvel. So, but I think that there were decisions along the way that we made to go in certain directions, because there's so many different versions of the character, but then also it comes down to what's going to work best with the card art, what is going to work the best on shelf, and really kind of pop those eyes and give them contrast. So those are some of the things we think about.
So JB, don't open that card, the one with the super rare gray one. Keep that one. Dan's eyes lighting up. He's like,
yeah.
But it's funny, just to add to John on like how we decide which version we can do. Now, we all have read comics and love comics, and we all know that every artist draws it slightly differently, different way of presenting color, and with things and without things, and things change. You know, JB and I kind of sit together at the beginning and we say, all right, take a broad look at like what's the most common iteration of the character, and let's kind of hone in on that. Unless JB feels deeply passionate or heartfelt for one particular iteration. Because if this is Kenner being designed way back in the innocent times of toy making, the designers would make decisions from themselves to kind of create stuff. And, you know, spending time with JB and Mark Boudreau, they create it. So there's got to be a certain amount of craft and a certain amount of personal choice within these things to make it genuinely feel retro. So sometimes JB, like the red eyes, I was like, is it mostly red eyes? And he was like, I just really love it. And I was like, then it's red eyes. Then it's red eyes. So I'm sure JB hates me kind of busting his balls all the time. So like what kind of colors to do and stuff like that. But yeah, he called that.
Absolutely.
It looks brilliant. It looks brilliant. And it's symmetrical as well, which pleases me. It's all kind of like symmetrically shaped. It's beautiful.
Yeah, he looks great. He looks great. I'm excited to see him introduced in the line. I love we're getting so much Moon Knight love lately. I mean, we got the amazing series that just wrapped up and lots of new toys. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I want to point out that, you know, when the team sits down to do character selects, we do have an eye on what's relevant in entertainment. But as we've seen the past couple of years, due to the craziness of the world, entertainment dates have moved around a lot. So for instance, we had a whole bunch of like comic inspired Venom stuff back in 2020 that came out. You know, we had a Build-A-Figure wave and other items, and then the Venom sequel movie like pushed out. And so we were kind of out of sync there, but it actually in this situation worked out perfectly because we just wrapped up the Disney Plus Moon Knight series, and now we're revealing the new 3 3/4 figure, because sometimes, you know, you plan stuff and then you never know if you're actually gonna hit the target. And I think we did here. And there's another of these 4 figures, which I think we'll probably save them for last, but there's one tying into something else going on big in Marvel around this time too. So, you know, we're always kind of thinking, and it's working with our, you know, Marvel partners to make sure we're leveraging the most news that we can.
Excellent. All right, so Moon Knight's here. I'm very excited, but we got 3 other awesome figures in this wave. So who do you guys want to do next?
Let's go to space. I mean, we've had Silver Surfer, we've had some other cosmic-y type characters. So who's our guy for this next reveal?
Buckethead,
the man called Nova. Yeah, we got Nova. We got that amazing that Kirby-esque spacey art in the background on the card back. It looks absolutely beautiful. Love those bright colors on the figure too, the bright yellow and the blues. Really, really excellent stuff. So tell me about Nova.
The things that we talk about is we talk about families of figures. And it's like, if you look across the collection of retro to date, we have characters that fit within the Spider-Man universe, characters that fit within the X-Men universe. And then we have characters, obviously Fantastic Four, Avengers, and we've kind of carved out these areas, obviously based on the comic books. And Nova is one of those characters that as we move forward into 23, that we are going to kind of move somewhat beyond those families into characters that are very iconic, obviously, to Marvel, but then also that you could almost say that Nova could be partnered with Spider-Man. But Nova is he's also one of those characters that has the potential, who knows, somewhere down the road, showing up in the MCU, making him a much bigger character. We have no information on that at all. But Nova is one of those characters that I look at from when I was a kid. Sorry, Steve.
No, that is not a hint. I know you've been hinting, but that is not a hint, everybody.
All right, it's not a hint at all. We know nothing, seriously, nothing. But when I think about myself as a kid, it's like I considered myself a Marvel kid. It's like I read comic books when I was a kid. It's like I was so in tune to toys of the 80s and, you know, characters of the 80s. It's like, I feel like Marvel is they're experts in creating such iconic looking characters, and Nova is one of them. And I mean, with his bright colors, the bursts on his chest, obviously the helmet, and it's something that kind of harkens back to maybe something Kenner would have done. They would have taken one of these brand new characters and they would have put it in their line. But I mean, Nova is such a cool character, and he really belongs in this line. So.
Something you wanted to add to that?
No, I mean, I remember this one. We were just talking about Moon Knight, but I feel like there was a lot of discussion between the team on Nova, in particular on the colors, on the yellows.
Yeah.
Was it also the faceplate too, JB? I forget. I sort of remember something about that.
We went back and forth. We work with a very talented sculpting team in Hasbro that, you know, we partner with. And we also obviously partner with Marvel. And it really took a lot of time to try to get the helmet looking right, because you would think that looking at comic books, you'd be able to figure out what his helmet looks like correctly. But it's actually really hard because it changes so much from comic book to comic book. And I feel like the head took a lot of time to try to figure out to make it look accurate, especially at this scale. So, and then also the coloration, because again, it's like coloration and what's part of his costume are definitely, it changes so much in the comic. So I think originally we had blue boots, but then we switched it to black boots. And then also the skin tone of his face changed. And the way he looks now is the way he'll be produced. But this version was a much lighter skin version face. And one of the things that we're finding out is that the colors around some of these areas really, we really want to offer a lot of contrast. So it's like we definitely brightened up the sample, Dan, that you have there. So this was a previous version with a much lighter skin tone of the mouth. But
actually, the sort of color theory is quite interesting. With these figures, remember that they're pretty simplistic. So you get a lot of largish areas of color that need to contrast against another one. And we've got to remember that, you know, colors are incredibly subtle, and each one of us sees a color very differently. So like we don't sleep trying to decide, is that yellow got enough red? Is it a red yellow or is it a green yellow? And it's just ridiculously super subtle. And then you get the differences in printing on the card and printing on the plastic. Everyone thinks, oh, it's yellow. There are thousands of different yellows, and they work differently with different colors. And probably a lot of people are thinking, what's he talking about? But color theory is really important. And these figures show it off really quickly. So it's ridiculous. You look at the figures, you think, that's simple. But like the amount of hours JB and I kind of spend just going, is that the right blue? Or should we try this blue? It gets squirrely really quickly. But
yeah.
I mean, plus we're working on a schedule too. And it's like, we're trying to make sure that, you know, changes that if we do make, don't hinder the schedule. So there's a lot of other things we need to think about as well. So.
Well,
care about it.
I think that shows. I really do, because the bright colors that like pop on these figures, I mean, that really gives it that retro vibe too, right? You think about all of those retro toys that you're basically homaging with these from Kenner and everything, and how bright and colorful those all were, and these really have that feel to it. So I totally see what you guys are talking about, and it's one of those things you never really think about that, right? How intricate that must be to select just the right color, but it's really well done. It's crazy.
It's great. And I come from a graphic design background, so that's even more like color, things like that. So these things are really easy to do and fun to do. It's a serious job being so fun with these things.
That's awesome. I love it. Serious job, having fun. That's great. All right, you guys ready to move on to the third figure?
Yep.
All right, so figure reveal number 3, we've got Firestar. How great is that? Now, we've already got Iceman in the line. We've got a Spider-Man in the line. We've got the Amazing Friends. That's pretty incredible. So yeah, tell me about why Firestar was that kind of the thought process there.
Before JB goes into it, I'm going to tell you that this is probably the #1 requested figure out of all the Facebook groups that we're on.
Really? That's awesome. That's
awesome. Be easy. Just do this and this. And like, come on, we want our Amazing Friend. So JB, tell us all about our lovely lady in yellow. Very particular yellow, though, right?
Definitely, absolutely. So Firestar's really interesting because obviously she has, a signature color palette. And again, it's like, I'll tell you what, whenever I first started to see some of the work the team was working on retro last year or the year before, and it's just every character, when you line them all up, they all have such a bright color palette and they have such an interesting look to them. And I love brightly colored plastic. There's just something about it that just makes it feel like of a certain era. And Firestar is one of those characters that I think originally we had, there was an original character, I can't remember who it was, but we switched it out for Firestar because Steve had said that the fan community wanted Firestar so much that it just seemed like such a no-brainer. So Firestar is, I think the only new parts are she has a new head. And I think the rest of the figure is mostly existing, but the idea is that, how do we create the brightness? And it took some time to figure out her hair. I know we went through a couple different iterations on how do you truly get that hair looking correct and making it look like the comics? Because I think she first debuted in a little later on in comics. But she definitely fits within that Spider-Man family. I mean, if you have Spider-Man, you got Bobby Drake, you need Firestar to go with it. So, I mean, she's just a really great looking figure but she's really brightly colored, which is awesome. So I think, Dan, the figure that you have has the final skin tone, but we ended up going through a couple iterations of skin tone to really try to get it right. The one that we have here that's actually, it started out a lot lighter, but again, it's like, hopefully you can see this, but this skin tone was just too light. And I think it's because of the red and the yellow around it really caused too much contrast, but that's a skin tone on some of the other female figures in the line. So we darkened it up a little bit and really tried to make sure that skin tone popped. So, I mean, overall, she's just a great character, a great figure.
You see, color theory, Dan. We're not making it up. It's all true.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
I love it. Well, it's a really great character choice. And I love how amazing it is. I guess no pun intended. How that cartoon obviously has stuck with everybody so long that they're like, that's always been a thing, right? Everybody wants Firestar so that they can put her with Bobby and Peter. Like it's really cool.
You just got to make them run a little bit stiff.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. So let's that's a good segue to bring us to our final reveal of the day, which is Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man, our Steve Ditko's Spider-Man. So tell me, what makes this Spider-Man figure different?
Ryan,
Spider-Man we already have.
Ryan wants to chat on this one. Ryan, tell us all about Spidey.
So this is a big year for Spider-Man, right? This is his 60th anniversary, and we're celebrating the first appearance of Spider-Man, that Amazing Fantasy 15 version. We have it in 6-inch Legends, which was already revealed a couple of months earlier, I think. But this is the 3 3/4 iteration, and it's not just a redeco. There's some new parts on it too that speak to his first appearance. So JB, take us through those extra pieces.
So when I did a lot of research on this figure, and some of the best research out there is obviously my comic collection, but I had to go and purchase a mini graphic novel of some of the original Amazing Spider-Man comic books, and then also obviously Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy 15 is in here as well. Because there's some things I even learned. It's about, if you look on the back of the figure, he has that iconic blue spider, which is really iconic to this era, or this Steve Ditko Spider-Man. The other thing too is the web wings. So this is the only Spider-Man figure that has web wings integrated into the figure itself, because that was just so iconic to what this character was back then. And obviously Spider-Man, through some of the comic books afterwards, he still kept the web wings. Then it even made it into the first Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland. But he's just, the coloration, his front chest spider is new. Obviously, the back spider is blue, which is really cool. Wings, but then it's also the coloration. So this is the black costume, so black and red costume. And then it's the card art, which is a straight interpretation of Amazing Fantasy 15. So that you can see like the back here. It's overall, it's just such a great interpretation of that comic book cover and a really cool figure to add to your collection. I think the other part too is that this figure has a grip hand. Believe it or not, Steve, is that true? It's like this figure has a whip hand and a grip hand. I think
number of people
some fans were asking for Spider-Man.
What's your grip hands, man?
With a grip hand. So it's got the best of both worlds, the whip and grip.
You think you give people what they want with the thwips, and they want the grips. Thwips, grips, not thwips. We should do a whole range of t-shirts. I'm glad, JB, that you got that graphic novel and you didn't use your corporate credit card to purchase.
I didn't know.
I wouldn't have signed that
myself.
I just think it's impressive that you just created thwip and grip action. Why isn't that printed on the front of the thwip and grip?
There you go.
Yeah. No, I really like this. Like, I'm looking at the web wings, and it's really kind of cool the way you did that. So they're attached to the forearms. Is that correct? The way it works, so they kind of can swivel with the so that's really cool. Where it looks like it's attached like under his arms, but it's actually only attached at the forearms. So that way it doesn't limit the articulation on there. It's really nice looking.
Absolutely, definitely.
It's a real nice one. It's really good. I mean, the decisions that JB made on how to construct it, it's like, we could be really clever. We could do it this way. We looked at different clips and around the waist, and we're just like, kind of keep it simple, keep it cheesy. That's the charm of it. So yeah, it's really cool. And the deco on that thing looks really cool. All the Spider-Man figures in this range look really smart. And this one in particular, I love the sort of the darker tone of it.
Yeah.
Web lines. I just think I'm amazed at like the web lines, even on the Legends, the larger scale Legends figures. They just look so good, so
they're real clean. And I also agree with like the darker tone to it. Like you even called it like a black suit. And that's kind of the way the artwork was, right? Like the blue on there was supposed to just kind of be like highlights on the black costume that kind of eventually just got interpreted as blue and red, right? So the figure actually has black and red, which is really, really nice looking, I think. So it's very cool. So yeah, great set of figures here today, guys. I love these. Obviously, I'm a little partial to the wave, but it's an incredible wave. I'm a big Spider-Man fan too, so lots of goodness going on here. So what can you tell me about when and where we can find these?
So we should have said at the start, but this is wave 3 for the year for 2022. We revealed the second wave that had, I'm trying to remember here, it was like Thor, Black Widow, Green Goblin, and Thing. Yeah, so that was wave 2. So this wave here is wave 3. It actually at retail will have Captain America and Iron Man, I believe, because we do like to cycle in some of the A-list characters for any casual fans who maybe weren't on, weren't at retail when those originally came out. So it's this third wave is those 4 new characters plus Captain Iron Man, and it should be out. I feel like our supply chain is still kind of all over the place, but before the end of the year, let's just say that's the target for this wave here.
It'll either be out early, on time, or late. One of those 3, guaranteed.
Yep. Nice. Excellent. Well, guys, this has been a really incredible chat. Thank you so much for showing us some brand new stuff here today, and for giving us a little bit of insight into what it takes to make these figures, what it takes to pick the colors for these figures. I think that's the important takeaway here today.
It is, which is kind of cool because JB's wearing white, which is kind of ironic. So it's just awesome. And I do want to give a 2-finger clap to JB. He does we all do a great job.
I appreciate
but JB
it,
in particular on this line, he is the heart and soul of it. So thanks, JB.
Yeah, of note, John actually designed a lot of the toys that everyone has played with over the years, being on the Hasbro team, Hasbro Marvel team forever. He was the king of Spider-Man for some time. So I remember going back to all those Spider-Man films, starting with the Tom Holland movie. JB does a lot of kid product, and now Legends as well. So it's awesome to have such a passionate team who loves comic books so much, and will just go to that reference material to get things right.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it was great having you here, John. Thanks for joining in on the chat. Yeah, it's been really.
Thank
really
you so much. No, it's really cool, and it's great to be able to share, what we're doing, what we're planning to do. I wish we could share a little bit more, but I'm sure we'll do that at some point in the future.
That's right. We got to leave room open for future videos so we can do this again, right?
Indeed.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me for this chat, and to everybody out there watching. And also, I'm going to do a separate video where we get a closer look at the figures as well. So throwing that out there so you guys can make sure you stick around to check that out as well. Thank you all so much for joining me, and until next time.